Hello, friends. Today we're going to talk about the Virgo New Moon, which is coming up on the Pacific Coast on August 22nd, and for the rest of the United States and Europe and most of the world is happening on the 23rd. And this is right when we are moving into Virgo season. So it's like, boom, right as soon as we move into Virgo, we have a new moon. And let's just remember, new moons are really potent times for us to be planting new seeds for what it is that we're intending for the next lunation and ongoingly. So this is a potent new moon, and we're going to look at all the different kind of aspects of it and the background environment as well that is influencing how we're going to be interacting with this new moon. So let's go ahead and dive in. I want to let you know that in September, we're going to be doing a Best Choices Challenge. This is an opportunity for you to get to know your human design authorities in more depth and to know how they operate both with your own type and with other types. And so there are two primary ways of working with authorities, all of which are intuitive. And I just want to emphasize that there's kind of nothing more important for us to be focusing on right now than how are we making our choices. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I talk a lot about being able to turn inside and access our inner wisdom and our inner guidance. And our human design authorities is one of the key superpowers that we get from the human design system that show us how to do that. And the authorities in particular are how we make decisions or how we make our choices. And the way that human design teaches it is very different than you've ever learned in common culture for sure. And you might already have been practicing it, but I know a lot of times people actually struggle with being able to know how to work with their authorities. So this is why we're going to do a Best Choices Challenge. It's coming up on September 22nd to the 26th. Save the date and look down below for a link where you can join the waitlist to find out more about that. It's coming up in just about a month, and I hope that you'll join us for us because it's going to be fun and it's going to be deep, and you're going to leave having a much stronger sense of the best way for you, not just anybody, but for you to make the best decisions for you. As we move into Virgo season out of Leo season, we're going to be having a big shift of energy, right? Leo season is so much about sovereignty and creativity and being the king of the jungle and being able to really express ourselves, to be shining our light, right? It's really that kind of peak of summer here in the northern hemisphere. And then we're moving into Virgo, which is an earth sign, right? Leo is a fire sign ruled by the sun. And then Virgo is an earth sign, right? Ruled by Mercury. So there's a big shift of energy there. So let's just look at Virgo, the qualities of Virgo, right? Ruled by Mercury, okay? Mercury is mercurial, so moves quickly, right? Mercury is the fastest planet that we have in the solar system and is associated with communication and technology and is very cerebral. So Virgo can be quite cerebral and is analytical and discerning, really likes to, sort things out, really likes things to be organized in ways that we understand. And Virgo is particularly supportive for us in terms of looking at and upgrading our day-to-day activities, right? Our routines and our habits. So this will be a really great time for you to be looking at, how am I spending my energy during my days, right? What am I focusing on? What am I giving my attention to? And is it what I want to be giving my attention to? And you'll see as we go through today's transit report that this is actually an incredibly stellar time for you to be creating a spiritual practice if you don't already have one, or if you do have one and it's gotten a little stale or you feel like you've just been doing it, you can upgrade it at this point. Refresh it, make it so that it's really alive for you and really fueling you and feeding you. Spiritual practice, in my view, is really just an opportunity for you to get to meet you, the you that you know is you, the you of everyday life, what we think of as like your personality, right? The person who shows up in the regular world, right? That part and connecting with the light being that is animating your form, right? Which is your spiritual aspect, your own particular expression of source energy that is also you. Because we, in truth, are multidimensional beings. And so we have different aspects of our beings. And we spend a lot of time through our conditioning just focusing on the outer world, what's going on out there, and then orienting ourselves to that and trying to fit into things or trying to be successful in systems and structures that are already set up for us. And when we can tune inside, which is one of the key moves that we can make during this time, we can start accessing the inner guidance that is just waiting for us, right, as we do that. And to be able to do that, we really need to give some time to it because for the most part, we're pretty left brain dominant, right? We're pretty in our analytical minds most of the time. And when it comes to decision making, which I was mentioning earlier, right, we have largely been taught to make decisions with our minds. And yet human design says, don't ever make decisions with your mind. All of our authorities are intuitive. And so this is an opportunity during Virgo season for you to really kind of take a look at that. How are you making decisions? Are you tuning in, or are you just still kind of giving your attention and your power and your energy away to things outside of you? And how can you just start to shift that even in small incremental ways? Like if you were just decide, I'm going to give myself 15 minutes, 10 minutes, with your cup of coffee, staring out the window and just tuning in to how do I feel on the inside? What's going on in here? How can I connect more deeply on my inner landscape and with my inner being? Because this is where you can connect with guidance that is coming from super consciousness and is coming from that light being inside of you. And it's all geared for what's best for you. Whereas when you tune outside for guidance, a lot of times that guidance is not what's best for you. It's fear mongering, or it's trying to get you to, plug into things that maybe aren't in your highest good. And so this is where we look for really the best guidance. And Virgo season is a great time to be developing that. So this Virgo New Moon is coming up on the 22nd in the evening here in the Pacific coast of the U.S. At 11 p.m. So if you're east of here, it'll be on the 23rd. Okay, so don't get confused by that. And it's in the gate 59. And remember that the sun and the moon are always together. They're conjunct in astrological language at the new moon. That's why we can't see the moon, because it rises and sets with the sun at the same time. And here in the human design system, we look at what gate it's in. And here it's in the gate 59. So the gate 59 is called sexuality in traditional human design, or sustainability in quantum human design. And it is on the Sacral center, which is the center for life force energy. So it's got a lot of power, and it is the most powerful engine in the chart. And sacral energy works best through response. Okay, it's a responsive energy, not so much an initiatory energy at the beginning. Okay, and it's in the defense circuit, which is a subcircuit of tribal circuitry. The channel is known as the channel of mating, or the channel of love and war. Not war like World War III, or war like we're seeing on the world stage now. This is more like tribal skirmishes, which unfortunately in our world today have sometimes gotten really big. So, but that's not really what this is meant to be about. So the 59 named sexuality in traditional human design because it does have this kind of primary life force energy, but it's been renamed sustainability because it's also about, are we living with our primary life force energy in a way that is sustainable, right? A way that is sustainable. And I would even say, is it regenerative? And I say that because we're really at a point here on planet Earth where we need to be moving beyond what we think might be sustainable at this point to what is regenerative. Because we've done so much damage to our Earth that we need to take responsibility for helping to regenerate the planet. Fortunately, there are many people around the planet right now that are doing that. But this is really that quality of energy. And it's like, okay, so what are our daily practices, right? Because again, this is Virgo, right? So what are our daily practices around sustainability, regeneration, and also about our primary sexual energy, which of course is life force energy. It can be expressed with another person. It can be expressed with you. It can just be energy that you have that you can utilize for your life, right? Because it's potent, like it's juicy, but you don't have to use it in that particular way. You can also engage it and then direct it where you want to. So when it comes to these themes of sustainability, regeneration, powerful life force energy, how sustainable are you being with that, right? And what is happening for you on a daily basis? This is a great time to be looking through this whole next lunation, and just know there's going to be another new moon in Virgo a month from now, because this is so at the beginning of Virgo. There's actually going to be another one right before the equinox that's coming up on September 21st. So there'll be another one happening right there. I think it's either the 20th or the 21st. So we'll have another new moon. But for this one, okay, we're really looking at our day-to-day activities and are they sustainable, and where we're putting our energy. So take a look at, are you dissipating your energy? My Kundalini yoga teacher likes to call it spending your prana, right? Where you're just kind of giving out your energy, you're leaking energy, you're sending it here, you're sending it there, and you're not even necessarily aware of it, right? Or are you maintaining your energy? Are you building your energy? Are you boosting yourself? Are you clearing out energies that aren't beneficial for you anymore, and then boosting and creating more energy that is great for you? So that's one of the things that you want to be looking at during the course of this month, because you want to have sustainable life force energy. That's going to really help you a lot in your life. And if you feel like you're really drained or you're really exhausted, this will be a great time for you to be doing practices that will help you to build your energy. I want to bring your attention to a few more things that are happening in this particular chart. Specifically, we've got Mercury in the gate 33 and we've got Venus in the gate 56. These are two of the three storytelling gates in the human design chart. All the storytelling gates are in the sensing circuit. So it's creative, it's expansive, it's embodied, it's experiential. It's not logical or rational or reasonable or any of that, right? We think about storytelling, right? We're engaging our creativity and our imagination while we are telling stories. And here we've got Mercury, who is ruling a Virgo, right? And so where Mercury is during this particular moon is going to really influence how we experience the Virgo nature of that moon. So the question is, and also because Mercury is communication, right? What story is Mercury telling? Right? What is that story? What's the story that Venus is telling? These are both collective gates because the sensing circuit is collective circuitry. So these are stories that are really about the collective. And the 33 in particular, where Mercury is how can we retell stories of the past so that they're more beneficial for now? And as we know, there's you might even call it a narrative war that's going on, definitely narrative conflict or debate that's going on about what story are we going to believe. Because there are so many competing narratives about what is true right now that we see going on in our world. So Mercury is inviting you to consider for yourself, what story are you telling? How can you take command of the story that you're telling? And how can you retell it so it's beneficial for you? And this is particularly the case if you're looking at what's going on in the collective and you're being stimulated into fear. How can you turn that into a story of empowerment for yourself? Because just remember, again, if we go back to what I said at the beginning, we are in a time where our choices are so incredibly vital for us. And you can choose at any moment where you want to put your attention, what kind of story you're living inside of. And then we have Venus, who's also here, who's in the gate of the divine storyteller. And this is our divine feminine energy. And we know that the divine feminine is rising now. The divine feminine wants to be telling her story. And we all have an aspect of the divine feminine in us, whatever gender or non-gender we identify with. We all have feminine energy feminine energy that we have available to us. And I know for me, I'll even just say recently I've been unpacking yet another level of the way that I have judged or rejected the divine feminine that really came out of my early childhood lifetime, and what I saw as the dynamic that was going on between my parents, and how I saw my mom at that point as a kind of disempowered stay-at-home mom. She, in my 20s, she became a very empowered, actually my teenage years, and in my 20s, she became an very empowered political activist. But when I was really young, she was a little bit of a disempowered, stay-at-home mom. And my dad was extremely powerful, charismatic, brilliant, off on his career. And so my little self made a decision at some point that it was better to be like my dad than to be like my mom. Well, that fostered my expression of my more masculine energy. And it led me to kind of be a little not as comfortable with that feminine energy. But now I am coming in and I'm telling a new story, which is about how the divine feminine is empowering me, and also how my mother really took a hold of that energy of standing for women of all races, of all classes, of all national origins, and really wanting to support the empowerment of women. She became a huge voice for the divine feminine in her own way. And so I'm in the process of retelling my story of my relationship to the divine feminine at this point as being one that is empowering for me rather than one that was potentially disempowering. So this is a great time for you to be looking at, like, what are the stories that you're living inside of around the divine feminine, and how can you be retelling stories of the past, and particularly the collective past, that will make it more empowering for us for the present and for moving into the future. I'm going to add another layer here, which is that Saturn and Neptune are right at the beginning of Aries, and they are conjunct, not totally conjunct, but they're really close to each other right at the beginning of Aries, and they're in the gate 25 in the human design system. So they've been there since March, and but they're retrograde now. So they're moving back through Aries, back towards Pisces, and in fact, Saturn is going to move into Pisces the 1st of September, and then Neptune's going to move back into Pisces a little bit later in the fall. So they're both going to spend some time back in Pisces, and then they're going to turn around at the beginning of next year and go forward through Aries, and then they're just going to continue forward for there. So during this time, while we're moving backward, we're really looking, okay, like, what is the ground that we've already covered, where we're looking at Neptune dissolving our negative associations with Aries ruled by Mars, the god of war, right? We're dissolving our associations with that kind of warrior, with that kind of warlike mentality, that kind of more warlike behavior, right? We're asking Neptune to help us to keep dissolving that so that Aries can emerge really as the pioneer, as the creator at the beginning of the zodiac, as the sovereign being, right? The I am presence. That's what Aries in its exalted state is really about. It's not necessarily being the god of war. That was something that the Romans really did to Aries back when we were in the age of Aries many centuries ago, thousands of years ago. And so we're reclaiming Aries during this time with Neptune and Saturn really doing a long dance here, right? Because they moved in end of March, early April, and they're going to be doing this dance all the way through for about a year, right? Going through, retrograding back, and then coming back forward and moving through next spring. So we've got this extended period where we're helping to just dissolve the negative conditioning that we have that makes us think that it's human nature for us to be warlike. I actually don't really agree with that. I don't think that it is our human nature. I think it's something that we got conditioned into, because I also think that we're incredibly compassionate and cooperative people. We are. And so again, it's a question of choice, right? Are we going to look at Aries as being warlike, at humanity as being warlike? Are we going to look at us as being pioneers and like I said, co-creators, which is absolutely part of the G center, right? The gate 25 is on the G center, the center for love and lovability, identity, and direction. This is an extended period of time in this gate 25. At some point, Saturn is going to retrograde back into the 36. Neptune is going to stay in the 25 because the 25 straddles Pisces, and Aries is going to stay in the 25. So this, again, layering on top of what I was just talking about Virgo being a great time to start a spiritual practice, right? Because this is about our everyday activities, right? And our ability to focus on that and create that. And here we've got this, again, a lot of support for us to be tuning inside and really going into what is true for us here when we're right here at the beginning of Aries and in the gate of the love of spirit. Because in order for us to really access and express our love of spirit, we have to go inside. We can't keep looking out there. And developing a regular time of you meeting you, I like to call it your daily date with the divine. That's what I call it in my book on feminine sovereignty, where we just, tune out of the outer world and we tune in. And that is where we source our identity from, our next steps from, our guidance from, our sense of being in a supportive and benevolent universe rather than a angry, punishing universe, right? And so that really helps us to move forward and help co-create that new earth that so many of us are desiring. So another layer here is that Pluto, who's been in the gate 41 since January 30th, is going to has been retrograde for a bit now, and it's going to retrograde back into the gate 60, and it's going to be there until December 6th of this year. But then once Pluto's back into the gate 41, it's going to be all the way until September of 2028. So mostly in that gate 41. But with these retrogrades that are happening, right? I just mentioned the Saturn and Neptune, the retrograde. Here we've got Pluto is retrograde. Is that we're going back over territory where we've already been. And so we're going to go back into that gate 60, which is the gate of conservation. And it is, I like to think of it as discernment, because this gate 60 is the place where we look at all of the different potential changes, all the mutations, all of the innovations, all the different things that have been getting downloaded to us, right, from superconsciousness, because it's in the knowing circuit, which is plugged into superconsciousness. And we're going to discern what of these changes do we want to carry forward with us, right? Because just because we have an innovation or we get an epiphany about something, number one, it doesn't mean that it is something that should come into form. And number two, it doesn't mean it's the right time. And number three, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're the one to manifest that, right? These are all things that you need to work with your authority on to find out, is this actually right for me, and is it right for me now? And so the 60 has this extra boost, right, for our authorities to be like, okay, what are we sorting through and what do we want to carry forward with us? And also, what do we want to leave behind, right? If you think about things like 8-track tapes, right? We've left 8-track tapes before. At this point, we've pretty much left CDs behind, right? These are old technologies that we've left behind. You think about all of these different kind of cables for your technology, right, that don't work anymore. Those are all things that we've left behind. And then we want to carry other things forward, which are really going to support us in terms of creating this new earth. And fortunately, there are a lot of different innovations that are happening around our world now. And there's a guy on Instagram and on YouTube. I'll go and find his channel and put it down below. The Good News guy. And he's always reporting on all this good news that is happening. And that is great if you need a boost that helps you be like, okay, what's happening that I can feel positive about? And that I can also potentially contribute to. So don't ever think just because you don't see it on the news that there isn't any good stuff going on, because there is lots of good stuff going on. And that is our discernment, right? Is we want to give our energy to those positive things that are happening that we want to see grow and grow and grow as we move forward into our future. And our final layer for this Virgo new moon has to do with the incarnation cross that it's pointing to. So I already mentioned that the sun is in the gate 59, which is the gate of sexuality or sustainability, and it's a tribal gate. And then it's resting on the earth in the gate 55, which is emotional energy. It's on the emotional solar plexus. It's in the knowing circuit. And in traditional human design, it's known as the gate of abundance. And in quantum human design, it's been renamed faith. I like to think of this as energy for knowing that you will always have what you need when you need to have it. So it's not a sense of abundance like hoarding or overabundance, like I have more and more and more and more than I need, which unfortunately is how a lot of times people think of abundance. It means, I have vast excess, right? But the truth is we only need what we need when we need to have it. And that's what the gate 55 asks us to have faith that we will be provided for by the universe to have what we need when we need to have it. So the earth is lighting up that gate 55 and really asking us to be like, okay, can we have faith in the earth? Can we have faith in our relationship to the earth? Now, of course, we might need to do some upgrading inside of ourselves in order to be in that kind of right relationship and have faith with the earth, because some of us have gotten really, really disassociated from the earth, right? And how can we have faith that we're always going to have what we need when we need to have it if we don't have faith? The Gaia is here and providing for us, right? And so we want to be able to be building that sense of I always have what I need when I need to have it. It's certainly one of my current mantras. And then that it provides the basis for us to become more sustainable in our lives. Well, what I want to point out here is that this incarnation cross is the cross of the sleeping phoenix. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about incarnation crosses or even about this particular one, but I want to just point out a few things, and then I will be doing more videos on this, and there will be lots of people who are already talking about this. Because in the lore of human design, it says that during this time right now, really 2027, but we're already in it and it's going to be continuing for a while, is that what's known as the background frequency is we're moving from the cross of planning, which got going the last time that Pluto moved into the gate 41. And now we're moving into the cross of the sleeping phoenix now that Pluto has moved into the gate 41 again. And so you can see here in this image what the cross of the sleeping phoenix looks like in the human design mandala. There's always a cross, right? The sun and the earth are always opposite each other, and they move around counterclockwise. And we have both the current moment, and then we also have the 1 quarter prior in an incarnation cross. Just the thing I want to emphasize here, though, is that it's no mistake that it's called the cross of the sleeping phoenix. Because this is really about, okay, what is Pluto going to be doing during this time? Because Pluto activates and gets the new crosses going for that background energy. And so we already talked about those two particular gates, of the earth and the gate 55, which is about our faith that we will always have what we need when we need to have it. The sun is lighting up the gate of sustainability, right? Which really depends on our sense that we'll always have what we need when we need to have it. But then on the unconscious side of this incarnation cross is the 3420. Now, let me just say here, for those of you who actually know how incarnation crosses work, I know that there are 4 different permutations and sometimes the gates are in different positions. So I'm just going to say it this way for now, and just know that there are 4 different ways that these particular gates can show up in an incarnation cross. So don't get confused by this if when you look up your cross, it looks a little bit different or the explanation looks different. But let's just focus on the energies of what we're really looking at here. Because the 3420 is the fastest, most powerful channel in a chart. Goes directly from the sacral up into the throat, okay? And it's highly intuitive. It's in the knowing circuit. It's also in the integration circuit. And so it's highly intuitive. It's not rational or logical or any of those things. And it's very individual. And it's very much about how am I expressing my primary life force energy, right? Because it's coming from that sacral to the throat, which is the center for activation illumination and expression and manifestation. So we're going to have, and everybody's going to have this configuration, right? Because this is a background energy. We're all going to be feeling this kind of this kind of manifesting generator energy. And the question is, how are we going to start working with it? Because the cross of planning was very different, really emphasized tribal circuitry, and this is emphasizing individual circuitry. And so the question that you want to be pondering, and like I said, we'll be looking at this more, is how is this particular new moon in Virgo, which is in the same incarnation cross, how is it giving us an opportunity to rehearse? Okay, what's happening with this shift? It's going to be stronger during this particular lunation, right? And this particular transit of the sun and the earth than it is at other times, because it's in that same incarnation cross. So the thing is what is our rehearsal here? Some people, I know Rahu Ruhu, who is the founder of human design, really saw this shift as pretty negative, because he thinks what he expressed is that when there's a lot of individual circuitry, people get very selfish, right? They get very selfish. They're just all about me, 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 me. I don't necessarily, I have a lot of individual circuitry. I mean, there is an aspect of that, but it's certainly not necessarily so dominant the way that I heard him talk. Okay, it's not my necessarily lived experience. And I also think that there's plenty of spiritual guidance that is coming in here. Like I said, that 55 also in the knowing circuit, also individual, also highly intuitive, right? But I really think of it as something about being plugged into the universe. And then the 59 is very much this tribal energy, right? Which is how we are relating to each other. How are we building our communities, and is it sustainable? So these are things for us to be looking at. And when I think about that 3420, it just reminds me of this time when Neptune and Saturn are right there at the beginning of Aries, right? Which is that powerful I am energy, which is also individual, it's sovereignty. So we've got lots and lots of layers here. And my suggestion is that you kind of see what you feel drawn to. Are you more drawn to storytelling? Are you more drawn to this question about the cross of the sleeping phoenix? Are you more drawn to Pluto's journey and what's going on with that, right? What are you more drawn to? And to pick a place where you can focus for yourself. Because if you try to pick too many things all at once, you just get overwhelmed, and then you kind of just step back from things. So pick one thing that you're like, I'm going to really kind of focus on this and unpack this. And I'm going to see, how is this active in my life now? And because it's a new moon, what seeds do I want to plant around this? Like, what seeds do I want for a new story? I know I'm going to be doing that a lot, right? Is what are the new stories that I want to fuel? I want to give my life force energy to. I want to be, tapping into my intuition to be able to tell, so that we as a collective have stories that are inspiring us and guiding us into creating the new earth, and not allowing ourselves to get all caught up in the idea of apocalypse and, really a hellscape, which, there are powers that be that are trying to create that. Like, I'm not in denial about that, but you don't have to give your energy to it, right? And you can give your energy to a different reality. And every one of us that does that helps bring that new reality come into form. And I hope you will join us for the Best Choices Challenge happening September 22nd to the 26th. And I will put the link down below where you can join the wait list for that. And then I'll be in touch. But just, save the date and just tune in for yourself, right? Is it in your highest good to be upgrading your ability to make the right decisions for you? And is it in your highest good to be upgrading your relationship with your authority, which is really your relationship with your inner being and your higher self? Because if it is, you'll want to be with us for this challenge. It's going to be fun. It's going to be illuminating. And you're going to walk away with a much deeper sense of your connection to your human design, to your superpower of your authority, and your sense of how to really make the best choices for you. All right, my friends, many blessings. Much love.